Beyond the Stars, a homemade rocket adventure. It was a sunny day in the spring of the year, and Sam, Franco, and Harry were on a school trip to NASA. They were in awe as they walked through the exhibits, learning about the history of space exploration and the technology that makes it possible. They saw real-life spacesuits and rocket engines, and they even got to see a live launch from the viewing platform. But what really caught their attention was the section on DIY and amateur rocketry. They saw that ordinary people, with limited resources and no prior experience, had successfully built and launched their own rockets. They read about the experiments and the challenges they faced, and the satisfaction they had when they succeeded. As they walked around the exhibits, the three kids couldn't help but dream of building their own rocket. They wanted to experience the thrill of launching something into space and seeing the world from a whole new perspective. After the trip, the three friends couldn't stop talking about building a rocket. They spent hours researching different designs and materials, and they even started collecting parts and tools. They decided to work on their project during their free time, and they made a plan to launch the rocket within a year. The three friends faced many challenges along the way, from gathering materials to dealing with the technical aspects of building a rocket. But they were determined to make it happen, and they worked tirelessly to overcome each obstacle. As the launch date approached, the three kids were a bundle of nerves and excitement. They had poured their hearts and souls into the project, and they couldn't wait to see it come to fruition. Finally, the day of the launch arrived. The kids had built a crude but functional rocket out of materials they had found around their neighborhood and had scrounged from their local hardware store. They had tested it many times and were confident it would work. The kids gathered early in the morning on a large open field. They excitedly went through their final checks and preparations, making sure everything was in order. Finally, they were ready for launch. As they counted down the seconds, the kids' hearts were pounding with excitement and fear. When the countdown reached 0, the rocket's engines roared to life and the craft began to lift off the ground. The kids watched in awe as the rocket rose higher and higher into the sky. It broke through the clouds and continued its ascent into the black of space. The kids had done it. They had built a rocket and gone to space. For the next several hours, the kids floated weightlessly in their homemade craft, taking in the breathtaking views of the Earth below. They looked at the stars and planets in the distance, and they marveled at the vastness of the universe. They knew that they had accomplished something truly amazing. They were in awe of the views of the tiny Earth below them. They were snapping pictures and taking videos of the beautiful blue planet, when one of the kids noticed something strange in the distance. "Hey, what's that over there?" Sam said, pointing to a small dot in the sky. The others looked over and saw the dot too. It was moving quickly and seemed to be getting closer. "I think it's an UFO," Franco said, excitement in his voice. They quickly grabbed their cameras and started taking pictures and videos of the object as it got closer. As it came into view, they saw that it was a strange, metallic craft unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was smooth and shiny, with no visible means of propulsion. It was clearly not a man-made object. The kids were amazed as the craft flew right alongside their rocket. It seemed to be studying them, as if it was trying to communicate with them. The kids had no idea what to do. They were just staring at the unidentified object, with their mouths open. Suddenly, the craft flashed brightly and began to move away from their rocket. The kids were disappointed, but they knew they had to keep the rocket on course for their return to Earth. As the craft flew away, they couldn't help but wonder what it was and where it came from. As the rocket began its descent back to Earth, the kids felt a mix of sadness and joy. They were sad to be leaving the incredible world of space, but they were also excited to return home and tell everyone about their amazing journey. They showed the pictures and videos to everyone they knew, but no one could explain what they had seen. Some people were skeptical, but most were convinced that the kids had truly encountered something from beyond our world. The kids were interviewed by the media and their story quickly spread around the world. People were fascinated by their encounter and many were eager to learn more. The kids were hailed as heroes, not just their incredible journey to space, but for their encounter with the unknown. The encounter with the UFO changed the kids' lives forever. They knew that there was so much more to the world than they had ever imagined, and they were eager to continue exploring and learning about the mysteries of the universe. They had an unforgettable experience, and it will stay with them forever. The story of the three kids and their homemade rocket quickly caught the attention of NASA. The agency was impressed by the kids' determination and ingenuity, and they were excited to see the next generation of space enthusiasts. NASA contacted the kids and invited them to come and visit the agency's headquarters. The kids were thrilled. They couldn't believe that NASA wanted to meet them. They traveled to NASA and were given a tour of the facilities and got to meet some of the scientists and engineers who worked there. NASA was so impressed by the kids' knowledge and passion for space that they offered them scholarships to study at NASA's space program. The kids were overjoyed. They had never dreamed that their homemade rocket would lead to such an amazing opportunity. The scholarship would cover their education and provide them with hands-on experience working with NASA scientists and engineers. The kids knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they were determined to make the most of it. In the end, the kids' homemade rocket had not only helped them achieve their dream of going to space, but it had also opened the door to a future in space exploration. The kids were grateful for the chance they had to achieve their dream, and they knew they would make the most of it. But the story doesn't end here, as they weren't the only ones in space that day. Iramas and Aknarf were three aliens from a distant planet who had been exploring the galaxy in their spacecraft. They had been traveling for many years, studying different planets and encountering various forms of life. They had seen many strange and wonderful things, but nothing could have prepared them for the encounter they had with three peculiar-looking creatures in a wonky spacecraft. It was a typical day for the three aliens as they were cruising through space, when they picked up a strange signal on their sensors. It was coming from a small planet that was not too far from their current location. They decided to investigate and set their course towards the planet. As they entered the planet's orbit, they saw a small homemade rocket flying towards them. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was clunky and oddly shaped. The rocket was being piloted by three creatures who looked nothing like the life forms they had encountered before. They had strange, hairless bodies, big round eyes, and small mouths. The three aliens were curious and decided to make contact with the creatures. They sent out a greeting signal, but the creatures did not respond. The aliens decided to hover their spacecraft next to the rocket, and they greeted the creatures. To their surprise, the creatures started to communicate with them through a series of strange sounds and gestures. The aliens were shocked. They had never encountered a form of life that communicated in such a way. They quickly realized that the creatures weren't very intelligent and not capable of understanding them. The creatures, who were the three human friends Sam, Harry, and Franco, seemed to be making some obscene gestures and were quickly moving the holes of what seemed to be their heads. Iramas and Aknarf were threatened by what in their eyes seemed to be aggressive posturing. The aliens were amazed by the kids' bravery and determination, considering how primitive and defenseless their spacecraft was. They unanimously decided it was time to leave this strange planet and to never return. As they sped away, the aliens couldn't stop thinking about the three creatures and their wonky spacecraft. They knew that they had encountered something truly unsettling, and that the universe would never cease to amaze them.